Hello everyone, welcome to 3ddesignacademy.com. In this lesson, we will continue with part 190 of constructing the car project. Okay, so continuing from the previous lesson, I'm just going to be working on some minimum fillets and gaps and flanges. So let me just trim this piece over here. So I'm just going to extend like this to trim this piece, and I think I'm going to put a little gap over here. So for this one, I'm just going to be putting a 1 mil gap. Now, because I don't think this is actually drafted, I'm just going to be doing just a straight offset. So I'm just going to grab these surfaces like this. This one's done, so we don't have to worry about that. So let me just do an offset like this, 1 mil. And for the normal mode, I'm just going to say NUV because it gives me a little bit better CV structure. And after that, let me just untrim these pieces over here. So I'm just going to trim this one over here like this, untrim this one, all the way through like that. And let me just grab these, and I'm just going to delete the construction history. I'm going to hide and select it. I'm just going to delete all the carbon surface. Well, actually, you know what? Let me just hold on to that. I am going to delete the carbon surface, these carbon surfaces over here, and these ones on the end like this, because they are going to make the surface a little bit short. So let me just delete these like this. And let's just check what's going to happen over here. Okay, so this one needs to connect over here, so I think I'm going to do a little bit of update. So I'm just going to extend this all the way through like this, and I'm going to extend this one a little bit. Now this one is going to be terminated by a fillet, so we don't have to worry too much about that. Okay, so I think that looks good. I know there's a little bit of I think we can just make it straight to make it a little bit cleaner. Okay, so that said, I'm going to delete these carbon surfaces over here. I'm probably going to connect a dot between this edge and that one over here. But before I do that, let me just make sure that I make these the same. So I'm just going to intersect. Right now, this edge is a little bit short, so I'm going to make it a little bit longer like this, and I'm just going to snap it back like that. I'm going to delete this carbon surface over here, and I'm just going to grab a degree 2 curve like this. Actually, you know what? Instead of doing a degree 2, let me just duplicate this one. Okay, so I'm just going to extend this curve a little bit shorter so that it matches, and I'm just going to intersect this piece over here. And using the stretch tool, I'm just going to snap this curve over here so that we can trim this piece. Okay, so I'm just going to project like this. I'm going to delete the curve. Now this one, I probably need to make sure that the fillet matches. So before I do that, let me just delete the construction history on all of them. And I'm going to trim this piece over here. I'm going to extend that piece. Oh. Looks like it's not extending as expected. Okay, there we go. I'm going to trim this piece over here, and now I'm going to just use a line. Okay, so I'm just going to use a line, and I'm just going to edge align this edge, and this one I'm just going to say partial because I just want to retain the structure a little bit as well, as much as possible. Now this side doesn't really need to, you don't have to worry about aligning this piece up because it's going to be filleted anyways. Okay, and this side I'm just going to make sure that it's aligned. Okay, so I think that's good, and I'm going to say partial, so that's good over here. I'm going to make sure that this goes all the way to the edge because right now it's set to partial. So I think I'm pretty happy with that. So let me just delete the construction history and see what I need to do. Okay, so this one probably has a radius of 1. So I don't know if it's going to go over well with a fillet, but let's give it a go. And actually, before I do, let me just make sure that this is matching. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I probably want to extend this a little bit so that the length matches. So I'm just going to intersect with this one, and using the extend tool, I'm just going to make it a little bit shorter. Although that means I have to update this also, which is okay. So let me just untrim this one like this, And let me just do this again. So using the duplicate, well, actually, you know what? Let me just do a fit curve. I'm going to say just degree 2, just keep it simple. I'm going to delete the construction history over here. And I'm going to extend, well, actually, before I do that, let me just untrim this piece. Okay, so I'm just going to untrim. And using the stretch tool, I'm just going to snap it here. And this end, again, I'm going to snap it over here like that. And I think that's good. Okay, so I'm just going to project like this. And I'm going to trim over here. I'm going to trim over here. And I'm just going to delete the construction history over here. I'm going to extend this piece back a little bit. Now the edges are, looks like it's not matching. So I probably want to do a little bit of refinement to make sure that it is aligned well. Okay, so I'm going to say partial over here. And I'm going to do the same thing over here. Partials on. Its edge on the other side, so that's good. Just going to delete the construction history over here, and I think we are ready to give it a fillet. Okay, so I'm a little bit worried about how it's going to go over here, but let's see what it does for us. Okay, so depending on the situation, I might have to rework this, but we'll have to see. Okay, so let's go ahead and do the fillet. So I'm going to grab surface fillet. It's going to be radius. It's going to be circular. You can do tangent, but doesn't really matter. And I'm just going to set the fillet size to 1. I'm just going to grab all these surfaces like this. And all the fillets. And let's just go over slowly. So I'm just going to go step by step. I'm going to say default. Oh. Okay, so I think I need to set the direction to the other side. Oh, that should be correct. Yeah, there we go. And I'm going to grab these also like this. Make sure the direction is still good. Okay, so I think that's why I just want to make sure that to reverse that. Okay, so looks like that fillet is going to disappear, which is totally fine. And I think it's looking good so far. And I'm just going to go down over here. Okay, it looks like this. Okay, there we go. Now I'm going to pause over here. I'm just going to put the fillet here like this. And this one it does worry me a little bit because this is probably going to give me a triangle. And it's probably not going to make it. No, it doesn't. Okay, so if that's the case, I probably have to think of a different way to do the fillet. Either make one side bigger, or we can always make this a little bit smaller at 0.9. But let me just do a little bit of thinking. Okay, so one way that we can, well, actually, you know what? I'm just going to keep this simple and make this a 0.9. Now, I prefer not to do something like this, but because of the circumstances that we have right now, because we already established this as a 1, I don't want to fix this. And if I were to do the fillet over here and make this separately as a 1.1, then I don't think this is going to run through very well. So in this case, I'll just say 0.9 and just call it done. Okay, so I'm just setting this as a 0.9. Now, if it was a real production environment, you would not want to do this. You want to make sure that everything's matching well. But in this case, we are not making a actual production part. So let's just go ahead and simplify this a little bit. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. Let me just make sure. Now, I don't like how many spans there are on this piece. So I'm going to see if I can do a Bezier. Okay, so that's not looking great. Okay, so if that's the case, I'm just going to leave it like this. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. Okay, so let me just check the shape before I get rid of everything. Now, I don't like how it transitions over here. Let's actually take a look at the image, see how that does. Well, actually, you know what? Can't really see it. It looks like there's supposed to be a flat over here. So I think what they did is they actually moved this. Right now, the theoretical is right over here. I think it actually moved up a little bit. Now, that said, however, I don't want to spend an extra time fixing all this. So in this case, unfortunately, I don't like the look of it, but I think I'm just going to leave it. All right, so I would say that's good enough, and let's move on. Okay, so I'm just going to delete the construction history over here, and I'm just going to grab all these surfaces over here, and I'm going to put them in the hidden layer. So if you see this over here, let me just re-illustrate what's going on. So if you see this, that there's a flat running all the way through, I think that's what I should have done. But in order to do that, I would have to actually move this all up. And I think that's going to take a little bit too much time to fix everything. So in this case, I'll just leave it. It's not perfect. It's not pretty, but we got other parts to take care of. So let's move on. Okay, so that is done. And let's move on to other areas. I think I'm going to be putting this one in. So you'll see that, oh, well, in the opening, there's also a flange that I have to put in, so I'm going to do that over here. Okay, so let me just grab the draft tool over here, and I'm just going to grab all these surfaces over here like this, and I probably want to do it over here as well. And let me just grab these like this, and I'm going to say 10 should be good enough, and I'm going to also open it up, draft angle of 3. Like we are doing for other parts. So I'm going to say update. Okay, so it looks like it needs to go the other direction. So I'm going to say -3. Update. Okay, there we go. Okay, so let me just make sure. Okay, so I think that looks good. All right. The only problem is right now you'll see that this surface is actually quite long, so I'm just going to have to extend this piece over here as well. Now, I don't know if it actually looks like this in production environment. I know this doesn't seem short, but it doesn't seem excessively long either. So just based on visuals, I think I'm just going to leave it like this. That said, however, I want to make sure that make sure to trim this piece over here. So before I extend it, let me just go back using Control Z, and let me just duplicate this piece over here. So I just duplicated the curve, and I'm just going to extend this one over here like that. And I'm going to also untrim this piece like that so that I can intersect these pieces. Okay, so let me just do that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to extend this piece like that. So I'm going to intersect all of these. So let me just do that. So I'm just going to intersect this one with this one, and I'm going to trim over here. I'm going to extend this piece over here, and I'm going to extend this piece over here like that. And now I'm going to cut this vertically. So I'll just probably project it either normal or from X. Well, looks like they're similar. Okay, so now that's done, I'm going to just cut this off about 10 mils. So, well, actually, let's see. I'm just going to use the tubular offset over here. It's going to be 10 mils over here. Oh, that's 10 mils. Wow. Well, I guess it is. Okay, so I think it's a little bit too thick. So I'm going to maybe do half and make sure that it's somewhat similar to this one over here. Okay, so I would say that's good enough, and I'm going to just project this side from X like this, and I'm going to put a curve over here. So I'm going to just do a curve fillet like this, and I'm just going to make it small. I'm not going to make it big. I'm going to say chord, it's going to be G2. Now, because this is a chordal fillet, I'm going to do the same thing over here. So I'm just going to say maybe 5. Oh, wrong side. So let me just make sure I pick the right side like this. Maybe a little bit smaller. I would say maybe 2. Okay, so I think that's good enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to project this. Now the problem is, because the curved surface is merged on either side, I'm going to just delete the curve. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me just strike a curve from here to here like this. And using the curve section tool, I'm just going to trim these pieces over here. So, oh, wrong side. So let me just do Control Z. I'm going to pick this side, and what? Why is it doing that? Let me just try the other side first. There we go. That one works. There we go. Okay, so I don't know what happened there, but at least I got it to work. So I'm happy with that. And I'm just going to trim this one like this so that we have a nice thin edge over here. Now this one, oh, actually, before I do that, I should have done this first. Okay, that's fine. I'm just going to untrim this piece over here, and I'm going to extend and intersect. So I'm just going to extend this piece over here, and I'm going to extend this piece over here like that. And you'll see that the length is a little bit different. The only problem is right now it's all done over here. So I think I'm just going to extend this piece over here. So I'm just going to intersect, extend, and I probably need to extend just a little bit. Oh, I didn't need to do that. And let me just extend this one over here. I'm going to extend all of these so that the length is matching. Which means I also need to adjust this one. So unfortunately, I think I have to do the work again. So let me just grab this, duplicate it, and just move it over here like this. And I will say this one probably could be a little bit thicker. So let me just do that too. So instead of 5, let me just do maybe like 7. 7 is maybe a little bit too much, so maybe just 6. And I just want to make sure that the edge is a little bit below, which it is. That's perfect. Okay, so same thing. I'm just going to project this one over here like that. I'm going to delete the curve, and using the curve fillet over here, I'm just going to do 2. So just repeating the same process. I'm going to go to the front view, and let me just, well, first of all, let me just delete the construction history on this curve. And using the curve section tool, I'm just going to trim. I'm going to trim this one. I'm going to get rid of this, and I'm going to project this curve and get rid of the curve also. Okay, so I think that looks good, and I'm just going to trim over here. And now let's, okay, so in this case, I think what I'm going to do is, because this is a little bit bigger, this is a corner. Oh, I cannot see my mouse. This is a corner. I think I'm just going to make this 1.1, and I'll just run this all the way through. Okay, so again, radius G1 circular, I will say 1.1. I'm going to do the fillet over here like this, edge align on both sides. And now I'm going to delete the construction history over here. And using the surface fillet again, now it's going to be just 1. I'm going to start with default like this. I'm going to grab these surfaces like that. Oh, actually, before I do that, let me just save. When you're doing fillets, you just want to make sure that you save and save and save, because otherwise there's a chance that it might blow up. Okay, so I think that looks good. So let me just go ahead and grab all of these surfaces like this. And I'm going to say go. It looks good. Corners over here. I should be able to trim this without a problem. So let me just do that after and make sure that I set this to edge. Okay, so that's good. And now, actually, you know what? Let's see if I can try Bezier. Oh, okay, so splits into way too many pieces, so I'm just going to leave it like that. I'm just going to delete the construction history over here, and I'm just going to use project normal like this. And let's see if it's tangent continuous, which it is, so that's perfect. All right, okay, so let me just trim this piece, and this is also done, and that looks pretty nice. Okay. So now let's go over to the other side and let's finish this one as well. Okay, so it's going to be the same thing, except it's a little bit short here. So that's going to be a little bit convenient for us. And I'm just going to grab chain select so that I am able to pick everything like this. And I think, yeah, that looks good. I just want to make sure that it is opened up. Okay, so that's good. I think the length is good, and let me, well, actually it kind of looks weird over here, so maybe I'll just chop this off. So, oh, let me just turn that off. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to angle it this way. It doesn't really matter. So let me just project it like this, and I'm just going to trim this piece over here. And let me just delete the construction history on this piece over here like this. And let's just put a fillet here. So I'm just going to grab all of the surfaces like this. This should be pretty easy. So it's just going to be one. And it's going to be edge align on this side and edge align on that side. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I know the CV structure, or at least a span count, seems a little bit weird. At least a structure. Let's see if I can do Bezier. That actually looks much cleaner. I know it splits it over here, but I think it should be okay. So let me just check. Okay, so you know what? I think I'm going to keep that one, but this one I'm going to delete. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Okay, so I'm going to say Bezier on, but I'm just going to grab these two like this, and I'm going to, well, actually, you know what? I think the Bezier should be the foundation. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn Bezier off. I'm just going to grab this one, copy, Control C. I'm going to turn Bezier on. I'm going to delete these two and just paste it using Control V like this. And I would say that looks pretty good. Okay, so I'm just going to group it like this, and I think the color may be a little bit different. So let me just make sure that they're all the same, and that looks nice. All right. So a little bit more detail added, and I think that looks pretty good. I wish I could have adjusted this, but I think that it's going to take a little bit too much time, so I'm just going to leave it like that. And next, in the next lesson, I'm probably going to be working on the rear over here. Okay, so that's it for part 190. We will continue in the next tutorial, and thank you guys for watching.